Hello and happy Friday. I'm Anson, and we are coming up on the last week of our short series that we're calling Make It Count, where we're looking for God's perspective on the money and wealth that we've been given in this life. If you've been with us, you know that we've been going through the Old Testament book of Ecclesiastes, which in the introduction, the teacher, who is this wise teacher that's bringing the wisdom of Solomon to the people of God, the nation of Israel. He's lived a long life. He's tried everything there is to do in life to look for meaning. And he opens up this book by saying, look, I've learned that under the sun, meaning in this life, trying to figure things out just from a worldly perspective, everything is meaningless. There's nothing permanent. There's no guarantee of justice. There's no way to figure out how it all holds together. But the conclusion of his book in chapter 12, he says the one way to make sense of all of it is to recognize that God is in control and only the things that he does will last. And the things that he does will last forever. So if we're looking for meaning in this life in every way, we know that it comes from God, and we're getting this testimony from this wise teacher in the Old Testament who's tried all the ways of the world to find meaning. And his conclusion of wisdom for us is trust in God. Do it his way. That's how to make your life count. And in particular, with the money and wealth, the resources that God has given to us. That's one of the themes in his book of how to make it count. So we've talked about the money and wealth and the categories that we have of spending, of saving, and of giving. It's really the things that we would do with our money. We've talked about the gift of being able to enjoy our prosperity by spending wisely. We've talked about the opportunity to extend the provision in this life by saving diligently. We've talked about these two practices the last couple of weeks. And this final week, we're going to talk about the third aspect of what to do with our money, and that is with giving. Now, I don't know what your experience is with giving or what messages you've heard on giving before, or what expectations come to your mind when you think about what's a preacher going to say about giving. Well, whatever your preconception is, I want you to come at this with an open mind for what God has to say. What's God's perspective on giving? And thinking from the perspective of the teacher, the wisdom of Ecclesiastes, how can our money connect us to God's purposes and bring God's blessing and significance that he wants to give us? And teaser, it's connected to our giving. Giving is how we connect in to expand our impact in the world, to expand the opportunities that God's given us to use money and wealth for good, meaningful purposes in this life. How do you get more opportunity? Actually comes through giving away some of what God has given us. So when we open this series, we talked about this as a practical how-to series, not just talking about ideas and concepts and in a broad way, but actually how to become more generous, how to become the kind of people that have an impact in the world and bless others. And this week, we're going to put some real feet on the ground on this. I'm going to give you a drill, a very practical drill and a resource to take home, not just to, meditate on giving, saving, and spending, but actually how to make a plan for putting these pieces together so that in all of the ways that we use the money and wealth God has given us, we can tap into his purposes. We can make it count by receiving and living into his perspective on money and wealth. And once again, learning the wisdom of the Old Testament that only what he does will last forever. So if we want to have significance, we want to make it count, let's do it God's way. We're going to talk about some practical tools to do that this weekend. And we're also going to reflect on not just our opportunity as individuals to make our lives count, to connect to God's purposes, but also as a church, collectively. We're in this vision season where we're leaning into the opportunities that God has given us to bring healing, connection, and purpose to people all around Lake Norman through the love of Jesus. So we have some collective opportunities as well. And we're going to marry these two ideas this week. It's a significant week. We also have a special guest. One of our missions partners is going to be with us. So don't miss this weekend. I hope you'll join us in person, if at all possible. If not, make sure you catch us online. It's an important week for us. It's going to be a significant and exciting week for us. I'm looking forward to being with you this weekend. I hope you'll join us. We want to make it count. We want God's perspective on the money and wealth and the lives that he has given us And we're going to talk about how to make it count this weekend. So hope you'll join us. But until then, have a great weekend.